Welcome everyone, today's subreddit is r/EntitledParents, where Karen tries to force a total stranger to babysit her kid. Be sure to stick around for all of it because this story really is ridiculous. Let's jump into these, and don't forget to subscribe for more. Crazy neighbor tells their daughter that she can play in my garden without permission. I was watching birds in the garden through my window and I was really bored and had nothing to do. I was just about to take a photo of one really pretty bird when my neighbor's kid ran into my garden without permission. She started running around with her bubbles, also scaring the birds off and singing to herself like a lot of kids do. I opened the door and was about to ask her why she was here, but she got scared and ran off. I called the girl's mom, Helen, and asked her why her daughter was on my garden running around. At first she was confused, but I was sure that it was her kid. She then said, "Oh, now I remember. But why are you calling? Is she not allowed to be there?" I said, "No, she ran onto my garden without permission and started scaring the birds I was watching." "So, you can watch your dumb little bird some other time. I sent out my daughter onto your garden and you don't have permission to kick her off." I was now really angry. I said, first of all, I did not kick her off. She ran away on her own. Second of all, this is my garden, and I say who is allowed onto here and who is not. You do not have the right to send her here. She seemed offended and hung up. I rolled my eyes and went outside to make sure she didn't come back. I noticed she crushed one of my vegetables I planted. I don't remember what it was, but it was about to be old enough to take out and use. She lived on the other side of the street and she was with some other neighbors to have a talk. Since I was outside now, I saw where this neighbor was and heard her say to her daughter, "You can go on that man's garden. He won't do anything." I was raging. I went closer to her and said, "Helen, I don't know why you think you can buy my Nintendo Switch for $20 and let your daughter on my garden whenever you want. This is not normal and I am sick of you doing these things. I'm not the only neighbor who thinks this. Almost half of the street agrees. If you want to do this, go ask other neighbors and stop doing it to me." She went silent and kinda red. Her daughter started crying. She cries all the time. And they both stormed away. I heard her shout to me, "My husband is a police officer and I'll make sure that he will have a word with you." I once again rolled my eyes and also went back home. I can definitely understand OP's frustration. Imagine spending an entire season growing a vegetable just for some kid to stomp on it. Also, that Nintendo Switch part probably seemed a little out of context, but that was actually in reference to a previous story that this OP had written about the same neighbor. I might cover it in another video. My parents cut my beard when I was sleeping. My parents had a strict clean shave policy when I was growing up, but now I'm an adult and live on my own. I had grown a kind of long French beard during the lockdown and was visiting my family once the travel restrictions were relaxed. My parents are hardcore Islamophobes, and they were horrified seeing my Muslim quote-unquote beard, and they asked me to shave it because people might think I have converted to Islam and it's going to tarnish my family's reputation. I basically told them to F off and mind about their pubes rather than my beard. Today I was sleeping on the couch and my mom cut my beard off. And now it's an ugly mess and I have no option but to shave it off. And I can't leave this place as I am under 14-day home quarantine as I traveled from another state. And I feel they have won for now. For revenge, I think OP should go shave their heads while they're sleeping. If they're gonna pick and choose what body hair they approve and don't approve of, two can play at that game. Karen expects total stranger to babysit her child, even after being told no. So this is a weird one, not my story, but a friend who messaged me right after it happened to vent. So the story includes Karen, which is the entitled mother, her sweet kid, and OP's friend, which will be referred to as F. So Karen moved into the apartment next to F's a couple weeks ago. Karen has struck up short, polite conversations with F just 2 times in that period, with the second being yesterday, the day before this whole fiasco unfolded. This morning, at about 9 a.m., while F was having a nice Saturday breakfast, she gets up at 6 a.m. on weekdays, so this was a weekend lie-in for her. Someone started aggressively banging on her front door. When F answered, Karen was standing there with her kid, a 5-year-old girl, who had a little backpack on. Sounding very flustered, Karen said she was sorry to have to ask this with no notice, but could F please watch her kid for a few hours? Because Karen had somewhere really important to be. Now, something you need to understand about F is that she can't stand kids and has no idea how to deal with them. Like, she tenses up and gets super awkward if a kid so much as waves at her in the supermarket. F is also disabled. She uses a motorized wheelchair sometimes and a walking cane for short distances, or when she's just pottering around her home. She lives with her girlfriend, who is also her caretaker. Her chronic illnesses involve fainting spells and a lot of brain fog, so by her own account, account, she's absolutely not someone who should be left in charge of a child. Karen has seen F using both her wheelchair and her cane, and has seen F's girlfriend helping her in and out of their car, who was at work when this all happened. So F responded with a firm no, explaining that her medical conditions meant that the kid would not be safe in her care, and she's not well enough at the moment to have any guests, let alone an unattended kid in her home anyway. Karen immediately flipped from pleading and simpering to hand-on-hip indignation, at this point accusing F of faking her disabilities, because of course, if she can walk at all, then she obviously doesn't actually need a wheelchair, right? And threatened to report her to welfare if F didn't watch her kid for her. Never mind the fact that F isn't even on welfare. Her girlfriend has a high-paying job, and F works somewhere between part-time and full-time hours from home most weeks. She's a machine, and I don't know how she manages it. Newsflash, not all disabled people are unable to work. Although, of course, getting employers to actually hire us is another matter, cause ableism. So F basically said, "I'm not on welfare and I don't appreciate being blackmailed. Find another babysitter because I am not it," and closed her door. Karen kept banging on the door for a bit, but eventually left. About 20 minutes later, F heard a very faint, timid tapping on her front door. She said if she hadn't been so close to it, she probably wouldn't have heard it. She sighed heavily, having kinda already guessed what was happening. She opened the door and there was the kid who had clearly been crying, clutching the shoulder straps of her little backpack. She said very softly, "Mummy said I could stay here today." Now, like I said, F cannot stand kids, but even she said that this kid was an absolute darling throughout this entire fiasco, and the most she ever did was cry because her mother is clearly a monster. Karen had driven off and sent the kid to F's door, clearly thinking that if she left F with no alternative, she'd just play along and babysit the kid for her anyway, especially since F had literally no way of contacting Karen. Wrong. F escaped abusive parents at a young age, and this crap made her furious. She got the kid settled in front of the TV with a drink and some snacks and called the police. F says, "Yeah, my neighbor just abandoned her 5-year-old daughter outside of her apartment, and the kid showed up at my door asking to come in." When the officer arrived, F told them the full story, and while they were appalled, she said they weren't surprised. One said, "You'd be shocked at how not rare this kind of thing is," which is honestly kind of the worst part of all this. The officers took the kid with them and were really sweet with her, explaining to her that she wasn't in any trouble and had done the right thing, and that they were there to look after her and find out where her mom had gone. F found out later that they were able to contact the kid's father, who is currently working on finalizing a divorce from Karen, and was also appalled, but not remotely surprised by what she'd done. Here's hoping he gets full custody of the poor kid after all this. But that's not all, folks. OP has more for us. Update. I messaged F asking if she had any updates, and ooh boy, that was an empathetic yes. This morning, she had another knock on her door, only it was the dad with the kid in tow. He went there to apologize for what his ex had done, and also he and the kid could thank F for looking after the kid and for calling the police. She said he seemed like a good guy who was clearly putting his kid first in all this, which was really reassuring to hear. He told F that according to his lawyer, her calling the police and handling everything the way she had would basically be a gift-wrapped custody battle win for him, because what the hell kind of court would ever grant Karen custody after the crap she pulled? His lawyer was over the moon when the dad called him. F also asked the dad what had been so important that Karen had abandoned her own daughter over it. You guys ready for this? It's a damn cliche. It was an appointment at a nail salon. She brought the kid several times previously and just demanded that the staff babysit her and refused to even acknowledge the kid during her me time. When she called yesterday morning to book a last-minute appointment, cause Karens, the staff put their foot down and told her she could no longer bring her kid to the appointments and would be refused service if she did. The dad also said that Karen had shown up late to the appointment and they refused to see her anyway. Again, cause Karens. So she abandoned her daughter cause she wanted her me time, getting her nails done. The dad told F that me time is an excuse Karen uses to ignore her kid. Basically anytime she feels like it. Do not talk to me during my me time, etc. The dad also asked F if she would be okay to help with his custody battle. He said he understands that her health isn't great and that his lawyer had said a written statement would be fine. He said while it probably wasn't essential since they had the police report, he also wanted to have as much evidence on his side as possible just to be sure. Of course, F agreed. Karen hasn't yet shown up at F's door to scream at her, so F's thinking maybe dealing with the police put some actual fear of consequences into her. We shall see. I will of course post further updates if I receive any. That is just absolutely sad. Sucks that that kid has to deal with such a terrible parent like that. I guess the redeeming quality of this story is that the dad actually seems like a great parent. I truly hope things work out well in that custody battle and that the dad actually gets full custody of the kid. And that was our /Entitled Parents. If you enjoyed, feel free to drop a like and subscribe if you're enjoying this content. Thanks for watching, peace and love, and I'm out of here.